The last time that I visited with you, I showed you or made a video showing you what parts were in a short kit. You hear this term short kit all the time, and people have different ideas about what a short kit is and what's in it. And so the last video I did was to sort of clarify that, to let you know what all is in a short kit. Now I'm going to take this one step further and show you, at least on this is the Banshee. I'm using this. This is the latest short kit that I have released. I call it the revised Griffin, or the RG Banshee, because we've made a change in it, and I'll show you that in just a minute, from the original design, which I think will give you better handling characteristics in the air with this airplane. Eric Rule does all my cutting, and mostly on his profiles he'll cut two pieces of 1/4 inch that you can laminate together for a 1/2 inch fuselage. Now this is not always true, because he has some profiles that have a built up fuselage, or designed to be built up, with a worn truss construction on the inside and either a 1/16 balsa skin or 1/64 plywood skin on the outside. But in most cases on a profile he will do it this way: two 1/4 inch pieces that are cut exactly the same, and then you laminate them together. This gives you, I think, better strength. It gives you an opportunity to laminate either carbon fiber veil or cloth, fiberglass cloth, in between the layers if you want. I don't usually do that. I usually wait till I laminate them together and then put that on the outside. But different people have different ideas about that and how they want that to work. So what I wanted to do today was just sort of show you how this profile will be built, and this is on this fuselage. Again, this is not a built-up fuselage. It's a solid fuselage composed of two 1/4 inch pieces that have been laser cut. I have taken the liberty to go ahead and put the canopies on each piece. There's a notch here, and then there's a tab that goes down in it, and you can't mess that up. You just put it in there and dry, and let the glue dry. Now that's another thing about gluing these pieces together. I'm a big believer in Elmer's white glue. I use it all the time, but not for this application. That's water-based, and I've had things warp so badly doing that you could line a silo with it when it was through. So I use epoxy. I prefer the West slow cure epoxy, the West systems. It flows well, and it doesn't let go. What I would do when I was building this, and this is my technique, not necessarily has to be yours, but this is the way I do it. I always have the fuselage pointing to the left as I'm looking down on it, because that represents the inboard side, and I always like to have the inboard side of the fuselage towards me. And what I would do on this particular model is that I would put take my brush, my epoxy brush, and I would brush, mix up my epoxy, and I would brush both surfaces with this. And then normally I take an old credit card or something and kind of scrape it to get the excess off, so you don't have a whole lot of weight there. But make sure that it's completely covered and the epoxy has a chance to soak down into the balsa. In this case, you would take this piece, lay it right on top of the other piece, like so. And you want to line it up to make sure that everything, now this is assuming that you already have your epoxy on here, line it up, make sure everything is in line, and then lay it down and weight it down, or clamp it, either one. Now excuse me for a minute and I'll show you the type of weights that I use. Sorry about the brief delay there. These are called bridge shims. This is a 4x4, this is a 6x6. They're different weights, of course. But most steel fabricators, General Steel, places like that, have these things, and they'll practically give them to you. But this is what I use. Once I put the epoxy between the two, I will use these to weight down the fuselage while it dries. Okay. Now once that dries and these two pieces are joined together permanently, I like to take the inboard side of the doubler, which is this. You have an inboard and an outboard. The outboard is always, your motor is going to be, your engine is going to be mounted on the outboard side. So I take the inboard side, and we're assuming that these are already glued together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the inboard doubler right there. Then I'm going to, and I will put epoxy on this as well as here. Put it down, weight it down, and let it dry. Okay? Then, when that is done, I take the whole assembly and flip it over. I take my motor mounts, my hardwood maple motor mounts, put them in. Usually put a little bit more epoxy. It doesn't hurt to put the epoxy in here. It helps seal the wood and kind of fuel-proof everything. And, you know, put my motor mounts in, like so. And you know, you'll have, maybe put a little epoxy down the sides and in the back, you know, and so they'll be in there and stay. And then I take the outboard side of the doubler, lay it over, put epoxy again here, epoxy here, put it there, use my weights again to weight the whole thing down. And when it dries, you've got your whole assembly here. And there's your 1/2-inch fuselage. At this point, I usually, like this is going to take a 25 OS 25 LA. I would put it in under my drill press, and I would take, well, I actually would use the engine and take my dead center punch and make my holes. Then I would drill my holes for the 440 bolts to hold the engine on. And on this side, I would put you know, blind nuts where the bolts come through to tighten it up. Now a lot of people will put a cheek cowl or a tripler on the inside, which is fine. You know, I probably won't, but if I did, I'd put probably a quarter inch, 3/8 at the most, and try to hollow it a little bit, and then sand it to the contour of the fuselage. And when that's all done and everything, you're pretty much done with constructing the fuselage. Just you have to do some sanding, final sanding on it, but very simple construction, very easy to do. But I thought this might help. Again, this is the Banshee. Eric has several different profiles that use different construction for the interior, the guts. You just have to talk to him if you really want to know if it's going to be two pieces, a 1/4 inch, or if it's going to have a layered type thing with Warren Truss construction inside. So, hope this helped again. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back when we start doing the wing.